Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at Oystron for the Atari 2600. This is a homebrew game I've never played. I purchased this from AtariAge and I'm anxious to look at it, and we're going to see what it's all about. We'll get to a little gameplay later, but first let's look at the cartridge and then we'll look at the instructions and then we'll move on to some gameplay. So let's see what we have here. Just a cartridge, but we want to look at the art. Always got to look at the art. For the most part, the art coming from AtariAge products are always pretty good. I like this. This is pretty good. So there's the end label. All right. Set that aside. Here are the instructions. This game is by Piero Cavina. In the Arata solar system lies the planet Stella, surrounded by an energy belt which is home to the oysters. They make good food, so there are other space creatures living among them that eat the oysters. There's a horizontal bar that shows your progress in the current level, a life indicator with a maximum of 4 lives, the score, and your bomb count. The difficulty switches are used to control the bounce of the player's spaceship against the borders of the play field. When the left switch is in the B position, the spaceship will bounce, making the gameplay more difficult. Switching to the A will make it easier to control your ship. There are 3 game variations: beginner, intermediate, and expert. Space controls. You move whatever direction you want to go, and you press your fire button to launch your missiles. Keep the red button pressed for continuous firing. The fire button has 2 additional uses. Drop off a pearl in the collection zone during the normal gameplay, and drop off bombs during the oyster attack phase. Gameplay. Enemies and space oysters will enter the screen on the right and will attack you moving towards the left border. Some of them will bounce and go back to the right, others will disappear. Learn the behavior of the different kinds of enemies. Shooting repeatedly at the space oysters will eventually turn them into pearls. Collect the pearls and drop them in the pearl zone. Your ship glows when it's ready to drop a pearl. Enemies that reach the left border will try to steal the pearls. Shoot the thief to rescue them. Be careful, stolen and lost pearls will bring undesired guests in. Destroy them as soon as possible. Near the end of each level, you'll hear a warning sound and the screen will flash. After a few moments, Oystron will appear and your standard shots will be disabled. From this moment, you can either kill the Oystron by dropping bombs and letting him step over them, or wait until he gets bored and mutates into a space oyster. You lose bonus points if you let the Oystron escape. In both cases, you'll enter the warp phase. If you're killed in the Oystron phase, you will be returned to an earlier point in the level, and you'll have to face Oystron again. There's a warp phase. During the warp phase, you'll travel at high speed between space oysters and enemies. The risk of collision is high, but now everything is worth 100 points. A new level will start immediately after the end of the warp phase, with more enemies and troubles waiting you. Scoring is space oysters are 10 points, enemies 30 points, and Oystron himself is 1,530 points. Alright, it says there's an Easter egg. There's a way to start the game near the end of the level with a load of bombs. So doesn't tell you how to do it, which is why it's called an Easter egg. Okay. All right. That's a look at Oystron for the Atari 2600. We're going to get to the game and see what's going on here. I'm still learning this game, but I will say that it helps to keep your fire button pressed at all times. You'll automatically drop the pearls and shoot your targets without having to worry about both of them individually. I find that trying to keep my mind shooting and then deciding when to drop the pearls just doesn't work, so I just keep my finger on the fire button. Also, destroying the targets that are not oysters first seems to help me keep from losing my pearls. One of the problems that I'm running into is that the ship doesn't stop on a dime. If the joystick moves to the center, my ship seems to still move some in the direction it was going when I stopped moving it. I also have a tendency to gravitate to the oysters because I want to shoot them to get the pearls, and I seem to run into them sometimes instead. I'm not great at this game, but here's a little gameplay to check things out. Well, that wraps it up for my look at Oystron for the Atari 2600. If you like what you've seen here, give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. Be part of our never-ending search to discover all things in retro gaming. Have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time.